Backstage Capital.
When I started Backstage from, nothing, I said, well, what can I speak to? What can I speak on? And what do I know? That's where I'll start. I know I'm a woman, I know I'm a person of color, and I know that I'm really gay. Extremely gay. And my mom's here, so she knows now, too. Mom.
Start out with Jamarlin. I'm gonna start with Arlan. Ladies first. I'm sorry, bro. Arlan, could you go ahead and give everybody a little bit about your background and introduce yourself to the crowd?
Sure. I'm Arlan. I started Backstage Capital in 2015. Our fund is a boutique fund, which is a special way of me saying it's very small, fund that invests across the country in founders, tech founders who are women, people of color, and LGBT identifying. And I started it while I was homeless, and today have invested in over 80 companies in the last 2.5 years. I started Backstage because I couldn't find enough of what I was looking for, and one or two people who looked like me who were equipped to, or I guess allowed, quote unquote, to write checks was just not enough to me. It wasn't okay. And so a lot of what I do, or most of what I do, is not about necessarily personal gain or personal wealth. It's about setting examples so that it can be replicated by others over and over and over again, so that in just a few years, hopefully the word underrepresented in tech will not include Black people or women of color.
It seems like you're in a conflicted position in terms of, hey, you're doing things for the people, but at the same time you're getting money from the folks who are part of the problem. Mm-hmm. Or not part of the problem, driving the problem.
Right, yeah, I mean, and a lot of it is in timing too. I definitely have turned down $500,000 from someone who was associated with Peter Thiel right at the time where he put $1 million into Trump's campaign, right? And it would have done everything for our fund to have that money, but I just couldn't do it. I think ultimately it's more about like, can I get some more Black and brown investors, to take the place of those people, if that's the question, you know what I'm saying? And I have found it to be very difficult to raise from Black investors for the most part, with the exception of a few people.
So me and Brian had a discussion about ICO for a fund. Have you considered that, Arlan?
Oh yes, okay. Absolutely. We've thought about it we're late to the game, but we thought about it for about a year. People, whenever I do firesides and Q&As, people ask me about that for themselves, and I have just said in the past, and I stick to that, is I look at it a little bit like LASIK eye surgery. Like, let some of the experimental white men do it first, and we'll see if we still have our eyes in a few years. So I'm just meaning that it's wild, wild west, and it's going to become highly regulated. It's wild, wild west right now. Both sides are hard to navigate, and so when you see a lot of success coming from it, you may just want to jump on that. But just being in anything that I advise is being strategic, doing your research like I did. Do your research like it's your thesis, your college thesis, and then yes, and I do think that it will change everything for us. I really do. Us being Black folk, Black and brown.
How do you feel about throwing the Black empowerment cause, economic empowerment, within the context of diversity and speaking broadly? How should the community talk as it relates to the challenges of big tech?
Today, you'll see on our website, you know, you'll see white women and you'll see black men and you'll see people that are trans and et cetera, because this is, I'm in all these worlds. So I'll come and speak at BlackTech Week in Miami, but I'm also going to speak at Lesbians Who Tech. And if they were to ask me to stop to completely focus on only lesbians in tech, I would say no to them. And that's the same thing I have to kind of navigate when it comes to my identity and what I want to spend my energy and my life working on. I have threatened many times since Trump was elected that I would go zipline into a bunker and never come out again. But unless I intend to truly do that, I do have to live in a world where we all kind of coexist. And it just may be how I was raised, and or something like that. You know, my mom, speaking of her, she grew up in Jackson, Mississippi in the 50s, and she taught me, you know, you don't judge a white person until you talk to them. That's what you do, and that's how I kind of was raised. So I think there needs to be people that are absolutely hyper-focused on black and women, et cetera, et cetera. I also don't consider Backstage to be a diversity fund. So it helps with that. Like, you know, I was in a room recently where everybody clapped in the room, like patted themselves in the back for the diversity in the room, and I was the only black person in that room, and I looked around like Whitney in the it's like, diversity, oh, everybody's so happy right now. But, you know, in that room, their context was that they were empowered women, and that is something that, you know, half of this panel will not know what it's like to be black or white. So I could probably keep going with it, but that's kind of my take on it.